gone before sunrise. The night she vanished. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, not just for the story but to keep Brianna's name alive. Every view helps bring light to a case that's still unsolved. It was a cold Friday night, March 19, 2004, when 17-year-old Brianna Maitland finished her shift at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, Vermont. She was cheerful that evening, talking to coworkers about her new apartment, future college plans, and how tired she was after a long week. Around 11:20 p.m., she waved goodbye and walked out into the dark. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. The next morning, as dawn broke over Vermont's quiet farmlands, a state trooper noticed something odd along Route 118. A pale green 1985 Oldsmobile sat half-crashed into the side of an old, abandoned farmhouse. Its back end jutted into the road, front end pressed sharply into the building's wall. At first glance it looked like an accident. But the closer he looked, the stranger it got. The doors were unlocked. Inside, the officer found a wallet, clothes, and a paycheck made out to Brianna Maitland. Her ID was there too. What wasn't there was Brianna. He called in the vehicle, had it towed, and assumed it was a routine case, maybe a drunk driving incident. Nobody knew yet that they'd just stumbled onto one of Vermont's most haunting disappearances. When Brianna's family realized she hadn't come home, confusion turned to fear. Her friend Jillian thought she was staying somewhere else. Her parents thought she was at Jillian's. 2 full days passed before anyone reported her missing. When police linked the missing girl to the abandoned car, the case took a dark turn. Detectives revisited the site, known locally as the Old Dutch Burn House. Kids said it was haunted, but now it was a crime scene. The positioning of the car looked deliberate, almost staged. It was backed tightly against the wall as if someone had placed it there. Footprints, scuff marks, and a broken headlight fragment from another vehicle were found nearby. But no blood. No signs of a struggle. No Brianna. Search teams fanned out across fields and woods. Helicopters circled overhead. Nothing. It was as if she had disappeared into the night air. Within days, rumors spread like wildfire through the small town. Some said she'd been kidnapped. Others whispered about drug connections or people she'd recently fallen out with. A week before she vanished, Brianna had been attacked outside a party by another girl, hard enough to leave her with a black eye. Friends said she wasn't scared, she shrugged it off. But it made investigators wonder if that fight was more than it seemed. Detective Glenn Hall later said, "At first it looked like a runaway. Then it started feeling like an abduction." He was right, and by then crucial time had already been lost. Brianna's family plastered posters across the state. Volunteers joined the search. 4 months, they followed tips that led nowhere. Sightings in casinos, gas stations, even truck stops. All false. Then came a disturbing lead. 2 anonymous men told police they overheard people bragging about what happened to Brianna, that she'd been held against her will at a house party in the area. Detectives searched the property. It was empty. The suspects gone. Once again, no evidence. No trace. The deeper they looked, the more confusing it became. Her car's placement, the unlocked doors, the missing keys, everything pointed to something planned, not random. As weeks turned into months, the parallels with another local case shocked investigators. Maura Murray, a 21-year-old who'd vanished just a month earlier in New Hampshire, under eerily similar circumstances. Both young women, both cars abandoned, both gone without a trace. Coincidence, or connection? No one could prove it, but it sent a chill through New England. A year later, Brianna's mother stood where her daughter's car once rested. The farmhouse was gone now, just grass, dirt, and silence. She said she could still feel her daughter there, like the air itself remembered. "Someone knows," she whispered. "They just won't talk." The FBI eventually joined the case. They ran Brianna's DNA through national databases. Nothing. Her bank accounts never touched, her phone silent. And yet the story refused to die. Investigators, even years later, admitted one truth. Someone close to her knows exactly what happened. Every theory, abduction, trafficking, revenge, or accident, led back to one haunting idea. Brianna didn't just vanish. She was taken. And whatever happened, happened before sunrise. The vanishing point. When detectives returned to the site of Brianna Maitland's abandoned car, the morning light cast long shadows across the ruined farmhouse. The air was cold and still, almost too still. The car's position against the wall made no sense. If it had been a crash, the impact should have left debris or skid marks. There were none. Instead, investigators saw something far more deliberate. The car's rear tires were lifted slightly off the ground, wedged neatly against the wall. Her personal belongings were scattered inside, but nothing was stolen. Her paycheck and wallet were untouched, as if someone wanted the scene to look staged. Forensics combed the area. They found faint footprints leading away from the car, and what looked like drag marks in the dirt. Nearby lay a broken headlight fragment from another vehicle, possibly a truck or SUV. It was the only physical clue they had, and even that led nowhere. One officer later said, "The scene looked like it was arranged. It didn't look like panic, it looked like control. Whatever happened, it wasn't random." The old Dutchburn house had a dark reputation. It was a decaying farmhouse surrounded by woods and cornfields, the kind of place small towns whisper about. Now it was at the center of Vermont's most unsettling mystery. Police dogs searched for scent trails, volunteers combed the fields, and helicopters scanned the area. Nothing. It was as though Brianna had stepped off the earth. Her disappearance hit the town hard. Montgomery was small, everyone knew each other. And everyone had a theory. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Brianna had been involved with people who dealt drugs. Others thought she had been lured by someone she trusted. The most haunting theory came from one of her close friends, who said Brianna had recently mentioned feeling watched. The week before she vanished, she'd been attacked outside a party by another local girl, a fight that left her shaken but alive. Detectives wondered if that conflict was part of something larger. But when they interviewed everyone involved, stories conflicted. There was no solid suspect, no confession, no clear motive. By the second week, the case had gained national attention. News outlets drew eerie parallels between Brianna's disappearance and that of Maura Murray, who vanished just a month earlier across the border in New Hampshire. Two young women, both missing, both cars found under strange conditions. Theories exploded online. Was there a serial abductor in New England? Could the two cases be linked? Police publicly denied a connection, but the timing was impossible to ignore. For many, it felt like more than coincidence. Days turned into weeks, then months. Brianna's mother, Kelly, refused to let the search stop. She printed flyers, spoke on news networks, and met with detectives weekly. Her voice trembled in every interview, but her words stayed strong. "Someone knows what happened to my daughter. Someone saw something. And maybe someone did." Months after the disappearance, two men came forward with a disturbing story. They claimed to have overheard others bragging about holding a girl at a nearby house party, and that something went wrong. Police searched the property the men described. The house was empty. No trace of Brianna. The tip fizzled, but the whispers lingered. As detectives dug deeper, they discovered that several people close to Brianna had stopped cooperating. One moved out of state. Another refused to take a lie detector test. Then came a bizarre find. A necklace believed to belong to Brianna was discovered months later in an old barn miles away from the car's location. DNA testing was inconclusive. It couldn't prove she had been there, but it couldn't rule it out either. Detective Hall described the case as a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Leads came in constantly, anonymous tips, sightings, confessions. But none ever brought them closer. Every road led to a dead end. The frustration among investigators grew, and the fear in the community deepened. People started locking their doors again. Parents told their daughters not to drive alone after dark. What had happened to Brianna felt less like a single crime and more like a warning that something sinister could hide beneath the calm of a quiet town. Nearly a year after her disappearance, Kelly drove to the spot where the farmhouse once stood. The land was empty now, overgrown and silent. She said later that it felt like time had frozen there, like the air itself remembered her daughter. "I can't stop thinking," she said, "that someone out there passes this place every day, knowing exactly what happened." By then the FBI had joined the case. They collected DNA samples, re-interviewed witnesses, and analyzed fibers found inside Brianna's car. But all tests came back inconclusive. Her bank cards were never used. Her phone never turned on again. The case felt frozen in time, a moment caught between truth and silence. But detectives weren't ready to give up. One investigator said, "Someone in Montgomery knows more than they've said. Secrets like this don't stay buried forever." And in that small Vermont town where everyone knew everyone, silence could be the most dangerous weapon of all. The edge of dawn. Morning broke over Montgomery with a chill that cut straight through the quiet town. The sun rose weakly, as if reluctant to shine over the ghostly remnants of the night before. Brianna Maitland's car, that green 1985 Oldsmobile, still sat pressed into the old farmhouse, its rear end angled awkwardly toward the road, like a half-finished thought. By now everyone had seen it. Local farmers, truckers, joggers. Some thought it was just a careless accident. Others said it looked staged. And yet, Brianna herself was nowhere to be found. The investigation moved fast at first. Her mother, Kelly, reported her missing after she didn't come home or show up to meet friends the next morning. Police found her belongings, wallet, driver's license, paychecks, still inside the car. The doors were unlocked. On the ground nearby lay a broken bracelet, a single earring, and a faint trail of footprints in the mud. They stopped abruptly, like whoever made them had simply vanished into the darkness. Detectives canvassed the area. Some locals remembered seeing a small dark sedan parked nearby around the same time the car appeared. Others swore they saw two figures walking along the road that night, one shorter, one taller. But no one could identify them, and every lead seemed to fade as quickly as it surfaced. In the days that followed, rumors spread faster than facts. Some said Brianna had been lured by someone she trusted. Others whispered she had run into dangerous people she knew from her part-time jobs. A few even claimed they saw her days later in another town, alive, but distant, frightened. The farmhouse itself became a symbol of unease. The old Dutch burn house, as it was known, had been abandoned for years. Locals said it was cursed, but the truth was much simpler and much darker. The car's placement against that wall didn't look accidental. It looked like someone had wanted it to be found. Weeks turned into months. Police interviewed over 100 people, followed dozens of tips, but the case went nowhere. The FBI joined in using drones, dogs, and dive teams, but no body was ever recovered. Every trail led to emptiness. Then came a strange twist. A witness came forward months later, claiming they had overheard a conversation at a local party, two men bragging about a girl who had messed with the wrong people. The story was dismissed at first. But when investigators looked closer, they found the names matched individuals tied to local drug activity, people who knew Brianna or at least had crossed paths with her. It was a lead, and a dark one. But without a confession or evidence, it led to another dead end. Years passed and the case grew cold. Yet, for Brianna's family, time never moved on. Every sunrise felt like the same empty morning she disappeared. Her mother still kept her room untouched, as if waiting for her to walk through the door. Then, in 2006, human remains were found near a wooded area not far from the border of Canada. For a moment, hope and dread collided, but the DNA results came back negative. It wasn't Brianna. Another girl, another tragedy. Still, investigators refused to close the case. Some theorized that Brianna was taken across the border. Others believed she might have fallen victim to someone she trusted, possibly a coworker or acquaintance. But every theory ended the same way, with silence. Even today, decades later, the image of her car lodged into that house still haunts Vermonters. A silent monument to an unanswered question. Who was she meeting that night? Why was her car abandoned like that? And who wanted her story buried before sunrise? Brianna Maitland's disappearance remains one of the most chilling unsolved cases in New England's history. A reminder that sometimes the darkest secrets don't hide in shadows, they hide in plain sight. If you've made it this far, take a moment to hit the like button, not just for the algorithm but for awareness. Somewhere out there, someone knows what really happened to Brianna Maitland. Until then, remember, sometimes the scariest part of a crime story isn't what we know, it's what's still missing.